What up? What up? We back. Pop Talk, talking David Benavidez and Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. For me, one of the biggest fights of the year. This fight is a very, very significant fight in the 168-pound division as far as its effect on the overall landscape. And it's an even bigger fight for a guy like Demetrius Andrade, who, in my opinion, has been avoided for the majority of his career. This is kind of a make or break fight for Andrade. Benavidez, I don't think this fight is as consequential for him. I think that he could possibly lose this fight and still end up with big fights right after this. But for Andrade, this is kind of, I don't want to say it's it for him, but he's at a point in his career where it's show and prove time. He's got to go out and at the very, very least, put on a good show. He's going to do a lot more than that. Randy, what are your thoughts on? We'll get your thoughts on the fight, how the fight's going to go down, and I guess end with your prediction, and then I'll follow up yours with mine.
All right, so man, I always want to give Andrade the benefit of the doubt, man. He has been ducked a lot. Charlo's, Canelo's, I wouldn't say
Joe Saunders.
Yeah, so but he did come
Golovkin.
back. He had a little long layoff, and then he came back with PBC. And what I've seen since he's been with PBC, he didn't get dropped his last fight?
No, I don't.
Against Nicholson, he get sat on his ass?
I thought that their feet got tangled up. It wasn't ruled a knockdown. I know he knocked DeMar Nicholson down twice. That was official knockdowns, where they gave DeMar Nicholson counts. But I think Andrade.
He just has a weird style. And I know you've always gave him kudos for that style, but it's just weird. I haven't seen it like his style just dominate. And I think that against
he broke Jason Quigley
like Benavidez, he's gonna have to keep Benavidez. I put it like this: I don't see Andrade having the firepower to keep Benavidez off of.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting, because my thing was going to be Benavidez cannot take clean, hard shots from Andrade all night. Demetrius hits
clean shots. I don't see clean shots from Andrade.
I mean, he almost tore Jason Quigley's jaw off his face. I mean, he broke Jason Quigley's jaw. Now, if you're going to say, Jason Quigley...
he gets some, but he is just not clean, like steady, like concurrent, like for 5 rounds, I'm going to keep pounding you sharp. It's just, he can hit hard, but it's just like, it's just painful to watch sometimes, I guess.
I understand that. My response to that has always been, Demetrius Andrade at one point in his career was called a boring fighter, right? He was put in the same category that guys that we mentioned in the last segment, guys like Shakur is getting labeled now. Rigo was labeled as boring fighters, guys who are technically very, very, very good, but not necessarily fan appealing. When he went to when he went to Matchroom and DAZN, he was asked by the guys over there, and I have some guilty knowledge of this, he was asked by the guys over there to try to fight in a way that was going to be a little bit more marketable, a little bit more fan appealing. And that's when you got this 10 different styles of Kung Fu drunken master version of Demetrius Andrade. Because before that, he was very, very, very technical, fought behind, worked off his jab, tried not to get hit, worked at that medium range, but people didn't seem to let people criticize him for not getting guys out. People said he was boring. Then he switched it up and people say he didn't have fundamentals. So that's always been my opinion, my response to that. I've watched this kid since he was in the amateurs. I know that he can fight a fundamentally sound fight. Does he have a little bit of awkwardness and a kind of a little bit of craziness to his style? Yes, but he can fight a disciplined, fundamental fight if he can. But over his last several fights, he was asked not to do that. He was asked to do something else. But go ahead, give us your prediction. You didn't really, you kind of
I didn't. So I mean, based off of that, and then like Benavidez has experience with like slick fighters. He
not southpaws,
but just like somebody that can move. Like Caleb Plant can move.
So how do you think
Anthony
he did
Durrell can move, and he shuts them down. So
I thought he struggled against Plant. That's the fight, Randy, that made me go lean towards Andrade, was his fight against Plant. He really, really struggled in that fight against Plant, to me. I mean, Plant just gasses at the end of fights. He gassed against Uzcategui. He gassed against Uzcategui. Yeah. Guys who pressure him, but it really, to me, that Plant fight, it seemed like it was just as much Caleb Plant as it was Benavidez. And I don't know if he's going to be able to dictate the pace to a guy like Demetrius the way he dictated the pace against Plant. Plant is so inclined to want to get up on his pogo stick and move anyway. Demetrius, when he wants to set his feet and not be moved, he can set his feet and not be moved.
Yeah, but who has better hand speed?
Andrade does. Punch hand speed, yeah. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. All those little arm punches and pity pat, them arm punches, it's just gonna open Benavidez up to get hit.
I think Benavidez hand speed is a little bit faster than Andrade. But so with that said, I'm going with Benavidez in 9.
You're going with Benavidez in 9. Okay. Stoppage or knockout or
knockout.
Knockout. Okay. Yeah, my issue, and this is the argument that I've made to a lot of the Benavidez fans. Benavidez has been carefully groomed and match made throughout his career. Look, PBC doesn't have a huge inventory of 168 pounders, but they got a decent enough inventory over there. When he didn't knock down Kyron Davis, a guy who they brought up from 154 pounds, it started to raise, that got my attention. To me, Kyron Davis was a guy that he should have been able to sit down, land clean hard shots on, and sit him down. A guy who was much, much smaller than Benavidez. He wasn't able to do that. You look at even Keem Ellis. I don't know what his government name is, but I know him as Keem. He fought with Keem Ellis. Now, Keem is a big guy. It didn't really surprise that he wasn't able to sit Keem down, but he didn't really seem like he was hurt. And I've talked to guys close to Keem who are in that camp, and they'll tell you, look, Keem don't have the best defense. He got hit a lot, but Keem was never, ever hurt in that fight. Keem will tell you that he was never, ever really buzzed. It was just the volume, the work rate. He said he could have continued. They elected to stop the fight. I think the corner elected to stop the fight. Oh, I say all that to say this. David Benavidez has a lack of one-punch power. He is not a one-hitter quitter type of a guy. He is an attrition fighter.
Yes.
And when you put an attrition fighter in there with a guy who can make you miss and make you pay for missing, that is a huge stylistic disadvantage. And we sort of saw a similar style matchup with Crawford and Spence. Spence was not a guy who is known for knocking guys out with one shot. He's a guy that's known for constantly applying pressure He's a guy who's constantly applying. He's got a good engine, high work rate. And what you saw in that Spence Crawford fight was a guy who used Spence's best attribute against him. All that aggression and output, Crawford was able to turn that into counterpunching opportunities. And I believe that's what you're going to see a lot of in this fight. You're going to see Demetrius Andrade take David Benavidez's aggression and use it against him. Benavidez has got some very, very bad defensive habits. He pulls straight back a lot of the times. He covers up well, which works for him because his arms are like 9 feet long. But when you're fighting against a guy like Andrade who can find angles, who's going to step around, who's going to loop shots around the guard, I think Benavidez is going to find himself getting tagged with shots that he normally is not used to getting tagged with. Demetrius Andrade is also able to change levels. And when you're fighting a guy who can change levels, and like Georgie Benton used to say, get up underneath those punches, I think Benavidez is going to find himself in very, very, very awkward positions where he's not going to be able to generate the leverage. He's not going to be able to find the target because Andrade is so awkward. He's moving, he's changing levels, and he's operating out of that southpaw stance, man. I think this fight has potential to get really, really bad for Benavidez. Now, if what you're saying is true, and he can walk through Demetrius's best shots, and he can do it consistently, then the fight's going to get interesting, and I think you might see Demetrius Andrade wear down in the last quarter of this fight, the last third of this fight, and you may see Benavidez get to him. His inability to stop Caleb Plant, to me, not some huge indictment, but it affected how I analyzed this fight here with Andrade. I leaned a little bit towards Benavidez before that Plant fight. After that Plant fight, and knowing what I know, hearing what I've been hearing, what's coming out of that camp out there, I believe he's in San Francisco. He was in New York training with Rozier at a Rozier's gym. I believe they may have relocated out for the last few weeks out to the Bay Area because more of the snack facilities are out there in the Bay. I'm hearing good things. I think he's going to stop him. Last thing I'll say on this is this. David Benavidez is a big motherfucker. Huge. Okay? He's a huge guy. He's 26 years old. That weight cut eventually is going to catch up with David Benavidez. He cannot continue to shrink down to 168 pounds.
Young and he's making it.
Devin Haney is also young. Devin Haney is younger than David Benavidez, and you see Devin Haney say, I can't make 135 pounds anymore at the age of 24. Also a snack athlete. David Benavidez, when he comes into weigh-ins, looks like a POW. This guy is skin. This guy is skin and bones. And that has an adverse effect on his punching power. His inability to be able to add muscle during a training camp affects his punching power. Yeah. Conversely, a guy like Andrade is able to add muscle. This is talking about a guy who's moving up now, who's able to add muscle. Have you seen him on these all accesses? Yeah. He look like a wide receiver.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He putting that muscle on, man. And Benavidez, man, that weight cut in conjunction with a lot of the things that I've said, I think that shit is all going to catch up with him, man. I think Andrade's going to get him up out of there in the 10th round. Either his pops is going to say he's had enough, or the ref. I think Benavidez goes out on his feet. I think the ref steps in and tells David he's had enough. I think he's going to get sat down a couple times in this fight. Once early, once in the middle of the fight, and he's going to get sat down late in the last quarter, the last third. And I think the ref is going to step in and tell David he's had enough.
All right. So where do you, after this fight, where do Andrade goes next if he wins, or where does Benavidez go next?
Oh, well, if Andrade wins, he gets fed to David Morrell, I think, is what's going to happen. Because the folks over there at PBC are making this fight because they really don't have another choice.
Yeah.
I happen to know for a fact that Benavidez's people tried to make the Jaime Munguia fight. They did not want to fight Demetrius Andrade. They went to go make that Munguia fight. The Munguia fight couldn't get made, so they settled on Demetrius Andrade. Look, Benavidez has said he is open to fighting David Morrell if he beats Andrade and he cannot get the Canelo fight. I know he ain't getting the Canelo fight. Not next. Canelo ain't fighting Demetrius Andrade ever, and he's definitely not going to fight David Benavidez Cinco de Mayo. So the short answer to your question is this. I think you'll see Andrade versus Morrell next if he's able to get past Benavidez. And if Benavidez beats Andrade, I think if you don't see him fight Morrell, do not be surprised if you see him try to make a fight with a guy like Edgar Berlanga.
Yeah.
Do not be surprised if you see them try to make that fight. Mbili, I think, promotionally is affiliated somehow, some way with ESPN Top Rank. I think that's a tough fight to make. As fun as that fight would be, Mbili versus Benavidez would be a great fight to watch. I think promotionally, it's a little bit too tricky to make. I think the people at DAZN would jump at that opportunity to bring Benavidez over to DAZN, coming off of an Andrade win, and make a fight with Edgar Berlanga. Now, are Edgar Berlanga's people going to be willing to put him in there with Benavidez? I'm not so sure, but we'll see. We'll see. I think the smart money is on Morrell. The smart money is on Morrell for both guys. They owe that to Morrell, by the way. I owe that. They owe that. The people at PBC, they owe that to Morrell. He's been sitting there fighting no-name guys after no-name guys. They owe this kid a big fight. He's been sitting in there at that mandatory position now for like 18 months or something like that. They owe him a big fight. And I think Morrell stops both Andrade. I think Morrell stops Andrade, and he stops Benavidez also.
Did Charlo move up to 168, or he's still at 168?
No, so Charlo is still a 160-pound title holder. This fight with Benavidez is going to be at 164 pounds. So, do you want to do Charlo Benavidez in this segment, or you want to just move it to a different segment?
We can keep it on this segment since
we'll keep it on this segment. Yeah, it's the
same card.
It is the same card. Yeah. So you giving your prediction for Benavidez Andrade? You got Benavidez in 8. You said, or 9? 9. I think Coach Dave. He wanted his take on the record. Coach Dave said Benavidez in 8. I'm going with Andrade in 10. And yeah, we kind of broke that down already. We'll switch over and talk Charlo Benavidez, Jose Jr., right? He's the junior. He's Jose Jr. Jermall Charlo coming back off of a what? We're talking about close to a 2.5-year layoff now. He's been more active. He's had more fights outside the ring with his brother and his wife and Caleb Plant over these last 2 years than he's had in the ring. I think he's kind of been not abandoned. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think what's my man's name from Texas who works with him, who had been working, Ronnie Shields. I think Ronnie Shields has kind of pawned him off to Roy Jones. The last thing I saw.
Yeah, the knock the rust and get his mind right, man. But
I know how you feel about Roy Jones coaching people.
Man, if I was a boxer, I'm like, why am I going to Roy Jones? Roy Jones,
nobody else to take you.
All people. Roy Jones, one of my top 3 fighters of all times, but that does not translate to being a coach, a trainer, or promoter or anything. That's like he's the Michael Jordan of boxing. You know what I'm saying? You put Michael
Roy Jones. Yeah.
You take him out of that active role, put him in the coaching or ownership or whatever. He sucked. Roy sucked.
Yes. Hasn't had a very good track record.
But you can't teach what he had.
No.
So
you can't. You can't. And the Eubanks has found that shit out the hard way, right? Like this, you got us over here doing all this wild shit over here. Yeah, the Eubanks has found that shit out the hard way, man. Unfortunately.
So back to Charlo, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, you had some mental episodes. Hey, okay, own that. And if you come back. But I think that they should went ahead and stripped him. I mean,
the WBC.
They stripping Bud, and he ain't had the belt for what 4 months, and then they stripped. I mean, and then Jermall.
Different sanctioning bodies, though. Different sanctioning bodies, different policies, different guidelines.
Man, 2.5 years, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, go ahead, get up, and then. I even if he does come back at 160, I don't see him fighting any of the. I don't see him fighting Jennebek. I think a prime Charlo, I think could whoop Jennebek, but I don't know what's coming back.
I always thought John Beck was going to give Charlo trouble. Charlo struggles mightily with southpaws. I mean, the stories about Edeslandi Lara beating on both Charlo brothers when they were all under Ronnie Shields, those stories are out there. That fight with
like
Matt
10 fights in at that point.
You said what?
They were like 10 fights in at that point.
I'm not sure. It was early in their career. But the fight against Matt Korobov, Randy, I mean, Matt Korobov went to work on Jermall Charlo. And Jean Beck is from that same school, that Eastern European school of boxing. He's been working with Buddy McGirt for some time now. I always thought John Beck was going to give him trouble, but he's not fighting John Beck this weekend. He's fighting Jose Benavidez, a guy who I believe started his career at 140 pounds, and a guy whose best win of his career, I believe, is a controversial win against an older Mauricio Herrera, if I'm not mistaken, in a fight that took place on HBO After Dark or HBO Boxing. That's how long ago that win was. He is now famous for, he's more famous for getting shot in the leg and having exotic pets or whatever the fuck. What the fuck is that animal he has? Have you seen that shit? That lynx or whatever it is? What do you call it? A serval or some shit? Anyhow, I say that to say this. He's more famous for the shit he do outside the ring than anything he's done in the ring.
Yeah, I mean,
does he have what it takes to beat Charlo? A Charlo who's been inactive now for 2.5 years. How do you see this going?
Man, I think even him being sent down for 2.5 years, if he put real training in his training camp, he'll beat the shit out of Benavidez Jr.
You would think so, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I talked so much shit before the Spence fight. Y'all knew I was pro Spence. And like Bud was like, yeah, he beat Benavidez Jr. I was like, he had one leg. And then Garcia, I think Garcia recently whooped up on him.
I wouldn't say whooped up on him. I would say they fought. That was a pretty nondescript performance from both of those guys. I mean, Danny Garcia I don't think he's knocked anybody out or down in years. I mean, that wasn't.
That's where I was going. And then so Charlo to me is levels ahead of Garcia. So
at least physically, right? He is a natural. He's always been described as a big 160-pounder. He walks around. I mean, you guys were right next to him out there in Vegas. Didn't you guys get pretty close to him for
he walked right past
during the Crawford?
After he got smacked. So
it was after he got smacked, so he walked past real quick. I'm sure. How big? I never been close to him. How big
about my height. He about my height, man, and then he looked kind of thick. So
how tall are you? You about 6 foot? Yeah. About 6 foot. How much do you think he weighed?
Shit, I don't know. I ain't size him up like that. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, why this one? He looks, you know, they always look mad. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, why he looking? And it was like 1,000 degrees out there. So
I know it was hot as fuck out there, and it was even hotter for Jermall Charlo after getting the shit, the black smacked
and then his wife getting the business in the parking lot.
That was a tough day.
That was a day for him, man.
That was a bad day. We don't want to get but let's not get too much into that.
Yeah, but
okay, fair enough. So you got Charlo whipping his ass.
I got Charlo whooping his ass.
I got Charlo stopping Jose Benavidez and hopefully mercifully retiring Jose Benavidez Jr. We don't need to see Jose Benavidez Jr. anymore.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know how his name came out of somebody's mouth as an opponent. I mean, and then the David Benavidez was like, after, he said after the Garcia fight, he knew that he was going to get a call to fight Charlo. That long ago. So I was
look, I mean, it's a catchweight, right? Or not a catchweight. It is a catchweight, right? Fight's not happening at 160 pounds. Jermall Charlo, for the edification of our audience, Jermall Charlo's belt's now on the line. This is a glorified tune-up. So yeah, I mean, Jermall Charlo needed somebody who had a name. There's a story there between Charlo and the Benavidez's, right? I'm sure Jose was content to go in there and get whatever they were paying him to fight a big name opponent.
Rose, buddy.
To call Jose Benavidez. I'm not saying those are good reasons. I'm not saying this is a good fight or a fight I'm interested in.
Man, my question is, all right, you said that this is a tune-up. The question is, a tune-up for what?
Well, I think that might go back to the question that you asked in our previous, not in the previous segment, but I guess in the beginning of this segment, and as far as what's next for the winner and what potentially is next for the loser. I completely ruled out Jermall Charlo when you asked me that question. I think, now that you brought it up, I think Jermall Charlo would make a great opponent for the loser of this fight. If Jermall Charlo were to move up to 168 pounds, he needs to vacate that belt. Let Adames, elevate Adames, let Adames go there and fight John Beck. That's a fight that he wants, fight that John Beck wants. Let Charlo consolation prize for Demetrius to have coming off of a tough loss. I think even if he does lose, it's going to be a tough fight. That's a good consolation prize for Demetrius Andrade to get a chance to put hands on Jermall Charlo. And it would be a very, very good fight to use as an undercard to bolster another main event fight, to bolster a Canelo Benavidez fight, to help bolster a Tank and whoever main event. Charlo Andrade is a good, I mean, in years past, Charlo Andrade is a main event type fight. You said what?
I said that's a fight that's supposed to have been happening.
Supposed to have been happening. So yeah, I think Charlo has a very, very good shot at the loser of Benavidez Andrade, and I would not even be surprised if he got a shot at the winner, honestly.
So I got a different, I got a whole different.
Oh no! What do you think?
Alternative.
Don't say Canelo.
I'm gonna say Canelo.
God damn it!
Because if you go back, Canelo got a 3-fight contract with Showtime in PBC.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to fulfill that, why would PBC pay for Alvarez Berlanga? You already said that he's not. Canelo is not going to fight Benavidez on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, not in May. No, I think if that fight happens, it happens in September.
Okay, so now we're going back to May. This fight got so who's available to fight for Canelo to have a?
Oh, it's Munguia. I told y'all Munguia months ago.
But it's like, once again, Munguia is not a PBC fighter.
Yes, that's true. But they have been close to making that cross promotional fight in the past, and now that PBC doesn't have a network, and they
no, that's not true. That's not true. Showtime still own the rights for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, they're not doing pay-per-views.
They do have the pay-per-views for
they're not doing them. They don't.
No, they might not do them, but they're still under contract for the remaining ones that they have.
They're not doing boxing no more after the end of the year.
Oh, okay. So
they're not doing boxing.
I guess no that whole so does that mean the Canelo's whole contract null and void?
That's I was going to say I didn't want to cut you off, but that contract, I'm sure that there's a clause in there that if you don't got no network for me to fight on no more, homie, I can't. If I'm Canelo Alvarez, you can't expect me to sit around and wait for you to strike some kind of a deal. I will still fight as a PBC fighter.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go fight on the zone. You can put PBC on my underwear. You can put PBC on my trunks. Put PBC in my corner. I'll wear a PBC robe. But I'm gonna go ahead and fight on wherever I can make fights. And I mean, my man was down there in Guadalajara for the Ryder fight. He said that shit was unlike anything he had ever experienced before, as far as boxing. I mean, he could not believe the event that was. Canelo versus Ryder. So can you imagine Canelo versus Munguia in Mexico City or some shit like that? As much as I hate it as a boxing hardcore, as a boxing fan, as a promoter and as a network, you cannot dismiss the type of numbers and revenue potential that shit represents. I mean,
Munguia ain't no seat filler.
I mean, my man over there tells me different. My man over there says that they have
that motherfucker was fighting in Mexico in a gym last year.
Dog, he's been able to grow some sort of a fan base over there, man. And they are looking very, very intently at making Munguia versus Canelo for Cinco de Mayo. It's a real possibility. It's a real possibility.
Well, we say that to say that Canelo ain't looking at one of the killers at 168 for a man.
No, definitely not for me. So all the Canelo haters, all the Benavidez fanboys, the Andrade acolytes, save yourself the stress right now, because it ain't happening. It ain't happening to me. I would be shocked if got on this. Anything?
You froze, man. I ain't even hear what you said.
My fault. I said, what else you got on this? Anything else?
Nah, that's about it.
All right, we're gonna end this segment, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like, subscribe, and share. Don't send me text messages or hit us up in the comment section. Talk about how much you like the show and you ain't hit the like button and you're not a subscriber and you're not sharing the video. I know that y'all know that we know more about boxing than some of these guys out here with 80,000 subscribers. Some of these guys, I ain't gonna name no names, but y'all who have been following us know that we know more about the shit than some of these guys that got more subscribers than us. So do us a solid, man. Share the content. Even if it means not sending the link, go tell your people or whatever, man. But yeah, share, like, share, subscribe. See you on the next segment.